We're going to bring the sheriff into this conversation as well. Assemblyman Mark Butler is in studio, along with Assemblyman Brian Miller. Gentlemen, let's start by talking about, this is about recertification, not certification of pistol permits and pistol owners.
Not a new permit. It's a
this is, we want you to recertify. What's the purpose of that?
Well, the announce intended purposes so that they can have a clear idea of who has what weapons and where. Some have a more sinister motive attached to it. Yeah.
Like, so when we know, like if you're a criminal and you have a gun, we know how many guns you have.
Right. And if I've been arrested a couple times, I'm going to be ahead of the line to be sure my weapons are registered.
That's actually right. You've introduced legislation. Talk about that, what that would do.
Well, our legislation would not repeal this, but it would postpone it for a year so it could get much more organized. The New York State Association of County Clerks has sent a letter to the governor asking for a meeting. This is just absolutely confusing. What are come February 1st, are these people who are not certified, are they felons? Under the way the language of the law reads, you immediately become a felon. Now the courts become involved. Do they issue paperwork for the law authorities to come and get your weapons? And what you are convicted of is a low-level felony. And as a felon, you are now you are required to surrender any weapons.
All of your guns,
long guns,
including rifles.
So this goes farther and deeper than I think anybody realized or recognized in the beginning of this. It just seemed like you just need to sign your name to a sheet of paper. There was no charge. Send it in, and that's okay. We acknowledge it. Go ahead. Life goes on. But
Brian Miller, have you spoken to anybody like a town clerk or anybody that's saying, boy, this is, or a sheriff, anybody that's...
We've talked to the sheriff. We've talked to the sheriff, a few county clerks, through the district up here in the area. They're not sure how things are going to get done. Like Mark said, talking with the sheriff, do we have to pick these things up? Who's going to enforce this? Is it going to be the sheriff's patrol? Is it going to be the state police? This wasn't a very well thought out situation here.
WKTV had an interesting portion on their show last night. You had the district attorney saying, "Oh well, we're not going to go out and take people's guns away." And then a scene later, he's looking through the book, looking up the law, and he has some second thought. They go to the person who's in charge of pistol permits, and he said, "Absolutely, on February 1st, if you're not registered, you're in trouble."
And you're already registered, so they know who you are.
Now, the intent of the law was that the state police would send out notifications to every holder of a pistol permit, and that did not occur. Many did not receive that recognition.
Okay,
So
I want to bring Sheriff Maciol into it, Sheriff Rob Maciol. What's your fear on this? What's your opinion on this?
Well, it's definitely a mess. Certainly, extending this by a year would give everyone a lot more time, because I think the issue is, there's so many questions. Our phone literally has been constantly ringing with questions about, when do I have to recertify by? How do I recertify? What happens if I don't recertify? In our state association, the Sheriff's Association, we have taken the same stance. It's very confusing. Just to put things into perspective, here in Oneida County, there's about 30,000 pistol permit holders, and if we're lucky, about 7,000 or 8,000 have recertified. You're talking 23,000 people that have yet to recertify, many of which don't realize that they have to.
Yeah,
the largest portion. And here, we occasionally will get suspension orders now, maybe 1 or 2 a month, if someone who has a pistol permit gets arrested for some type of, crime, a domestic violence charge, some type of mental health issue. And for me to send a deputy out to retrieve these guns, obviously retrieve the permit while this person has their issues going on or as things play out in court. From the time I get a suspension order from the court, from the judge, from the time I assign it to a deputy, we go out, we look for the person, we explain to them the situation. We have to take their guns temporarily. We have to take their permit, log them into evidence. Just for one pistol permit revocation process, it takes my staff about 6 to 8 hours. Now, multiply 8 hours times 23,000 people. That's not even humanly possible.
Yeah, yeah.
And where do I put these guns? You know, and certainly we're not going to be out there taking them. But hypothetically, where would you put? I mean, we have a small evidence locker because we're an accredited agency. We have to store weapons in a certain way. I mean, everyone out there that has a pistol permit, you've got 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or 20 guns. You know, it's so. I can't even imagine the amount of work and manpower. But on top of that, the concerns we have, you're taking a person, again, the SAFE Act, and you know, the 2 guys in your studio right now, I mean, they preach this every day. The SAFE Act does nothing to cut down on gun crime. The SAFE Act doesn't do anything, against the bad guys. The SAFE Act is only affecting the stable, law-abiding citizens, and they're just continuously getting more burdens after burden after burden, and it's not fair to them. And like I said, do you really think, as the Assemblyman said, do you think the bad guy is going to register his pistols before he goes and does a robbery?
Yeah, and maybe under the line of occupation he can put meth dealer. I mean, really, you're just. And here's one thing I want to follow up on this, Sheriff, and because I would go as far as to say this is such an emotional issue for so many New Yorkers. Yeah. What's to say that I would dare say that this certification is actually putting your deputies in danger, because you're going to end up with a confrontation. Here's an innocent, law-abiding citizen who's going to say, I am protected by the Constitution. You are not taking my guns. All of a sudden, now what do you do? And what happens if something like this ended in a gun going off? I mean,
and not even that. I mean, you look at, even if my deputy is going to your house, let's say to notify you that your wife is broke down and needs a ride home or something, and you see that car pull in and you think he's there to take your guns, or, you know what I mean? There's so many, but it's just it's very frustrating for us, and you know, it's just, and then you look at the other provisions of the law. If in fact, according to the law, the way it's written, if you get your pistols, if your permit is revoked because of a failure to recertify, in addition to turning in your handguns, this section of law also says you must turn in all your long guns. Now, wait a minute. You have a pistol permit to get handguns. You go through a very difficult process to get a permit to get handguns. It has nothing to do. You're not required to register your long guns. So where's the due process here? So now we're taking your pistols because you failed to do one thing, but when we come, we're going to take everything. That's bad. That's not, I mean, where's the due process? We just went from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds here. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense.
Guys, think of the new jails with all the new criminals. I mean, the employment, the economic impact. We can have jails all across upstate New York.
You always got to talk about Herkimer County, don't you?
I'm serious. We can have state penitentiaries for these violators. The jobs created. They'd be coming to New York in droves for CO jobs.
I'm also suspicious that Mark Butler is just simply trying to get more gun sales for Remington, because you know what happens when everybody thinks the guns are being taken away. Everybody buys more guns.
Thank you, President Obama.
The one thing I do want to mention, because at the end of the day, and as these guys will agree, this right now is the law. So we are advising people, here's the law. Here's where you can go to the website to recertify, because the law says you have to. I mean, I have no authority to tell you don't have to do this. So, at the same time, we want to advise everybody, if you got your permit before 2013, you've got to recertify according to this law by the 31st of this month, as it stands right now. Hopefully, they get their extension through. That would be tremendous. But my fear is when we get that extension, we've got to make sure that those that overseeing the SAFE Act, they utilize that 12 months properly, and let's not wait till the last minute again when we start scaring everybody.
Yeah, we'll be right back into January of 2019, saying, you got to get out there. Nobody's done it, and Andrew.
Well, and I guess you've kind of already answered my question. Does the responsibility lie exclusively with the sheriff's department, or the sheriff's departments in every county to handle this, or is it something that could be shared?
It's a little bit different in county by county. But here in Oneida County, the way it works, anything to do with pistol permits that lands in Utica or Rome, the Utica or Rome Police Department handle that. Anything outside the 2 cities, the sheriff has the responsibility. Some counties are different.
I would think maybe in Herkimer County, it might be the state police, right?
There's no road patrol.
There's no road patrol in Herkimer County.
Right. It very well could be. But our issue is, and I'm certainly going to respectfully request that if any orders do eventually come out for recertification, I don't have the manpower to handle this. I don't have the facilities to accommodate this. I'm going to respectfully request that, because it's a law that's currently being administered by the state police. Then they're going to have to bear some burden here too. It can't be dumped on. I mean, we put the sheriffs of New York State in a very difficult position, extremely difficult position.
And you have the Second Amendment that people are going to fall back on and say that this is a violation of my rights. I fear some incident in New York State is going to happen. It's not going to end well.
I think you're absolutely right, but let's be honest. An innocent, law-abiding, they usually don't pull out their gun when the deputy pulls onto the property, right? I mean, most people. So.
Right. But
it could something could happen.
This is a whole new world we're entering here.
Yeah.
A couple points, and first of all, when Brian and I were doing our research for this bill, I had a long conversation with the sheriff, and he was great.
Yeah.
Very forthcoming with information and helped us a great deal. So I want to thank him personally.
Sure. Very well.
The second thing is, I talked about this segment on WKTV last night. They had somebody from the state police making a statement, if you didn't get notified, we're not going to march up your driveway and take away your gun. Well, look, that's a law. If you pass a law and then think, well, we're not really going to enforce it, I think that weakens the whole structure of the legislative process.
Well, we were talking
you got a law, it's either a law or it isn't a law. There isn't. And shouldn't be gray area.
Notified would be enforced
or even worse, somebody goes to a scope meeting and somebody says, he's a little out of line, you better go get his guns, or you don't trust him. And when you start selectively taking away weapons, I think now you're also in a new world.
You see this as a slippery slope.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Sheriff, this is going to be interesting. Now let's talk about the reality here. This governor is not somebody who can be easily swayed.
No.
By the way, quickly, just for clarification, how did this become? Is this an executive order by the governor? Is this legislation?
This is part of the
legislation.
It
was
part of the SAFE Act.
Yes.
Okay, so this was passed by the legislature,
and yet another indication of the way the SAFE Act was put together, presented, and passed. It was riddled with all kinds of contradictions, laws that are in place that shouldn't be, that should have been repealed. I mean, it's been a mess since the day that went into effect.
Now, I have Donna here who's saying this. She said that her and her husband received letters. They took 15 minutes each to do. For someone with 1 or 2 guns, it will take less than 5 minutes. So it is a process that you could go through. Ultimately, the recommendation, Sheriff, would be what from you? That people do recertify if
like I said, I'm in no position to tell someone you can't follow, not to follow the law.
Right.
So the law as it stands today says you have to recertify by the 31st of January. We are providing folks with the website. Go right to the state police website. There's a link on that to get you to this. You can either do it online or you can print off a hard copy and mail it in. There are consequences, obviously, potential revocation. But again, how that's going to play out, how the process starts, who's going to serve these summonses, who's going to seize these guns, those are all unknown questions that nobody can get an answer to.
All right. All right, Sheriff, we appreciate your time, and it'll be interesting to see where this ends up here. So, and I got to say this to you, Brian and Mark. I would dare say you won't find one single illegal weapon that will be confiscated because of this registration.
I think that's a safe
probably
statement.
not one in all of New York State.
Right.
Probably not one.
Safe statement.
But again, we've been getting calls. For example, somebody has a collectible, a black powder pistol.
You
need to register that. There's no serial number on it. A starter pistol that only will fire blanks. So that need to be registered. That has no serial number.
Yeah, we get calls every day.
Yeah.
Same thing. It's calls from, do I need to give them my my driver's license number or some kind of identification? What's going on? When do I got to have it done? We give them the answers that we can, and then they ask, of course, if I don't do it, what's going to happen?
What's going to happen? And you don't know. By the way, you could become a felon, right?
Yeah,
you could.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have to register? My father used to have one of those pistol lighters. And you pull the trigger, and all of a sudden...
that could be on Section 3B.
That could be. It could be. There
is
is an explosion, a tiny little explosion that goes on in order to light that thing.
Wasn't it not that long ago? Didn't we talk to somebody about they had a cane that was a single-shot gun?
Yeah, it was somebody, I forgot. It was one
it
of our...
Olney? Was he on for the auction?
No. It was one of our questions on our free money questions.
Yeah.
And it was some famous person, I forgot who it was, that they invented a... Actually, it was Remington.
Remington
Arms.
Remington Arms had a gun that was a cane. It was a walking cane, but when you lifted it up and pointed it, you could actually fire. It didn't do well. The gun did not do well. But I bet it's worth a lot of money today if you could find it.
Would you have to register?
That's
the question.
Probably would.
All right, I want to quickly, a week from this Sunday, you and everybody will be down there at the Waterfront Grill for the 2018 Conference Championship tailgate party for the United Way.
Yes.
It's 2 till 6 o'clock, and this is great. I mean, the Waterfront Grill, they do a great job.
Rock, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. He does a lot of things like this to help out the community. So kudos to the Waterfront Grill.
You also every year produce a commercial, and you really go all out in the commercial. So I wanted to
all
play,
out of ideas. That's what he is.
I want to play this year's commercial starring Mark Butler as the alien, and Rocky Fiato of the Waterfront Grill playing himself. Listen to this.
Oh, my spaceship has just crashed. What are the galactic coordinates of this location?
You are at the Waterfront Grill, and I've got to say, we haven't had any strange creatures like you in here since the last time the Buffalo Bills made the playoffs.
I see on your viewing screen you have some sort of contest being played.
Well, that's a television, and we call that game football. Let me climb up on this chair so I can look you in the eye. There, that's better, and I'll explain it.
Well, I see the spheroid object you call a ball, apparently, but what is a foot?
A foot is something at the end of your leg. You stand on it.
Well, on our planet, we call that a glitz, not to be confused with a glotz, of which we do not often speak.
Now, that's what we call a touchdown.
So why don't you get off your glots and get your glitz in gear and get down to the Waterfront Grill on Sunday, January 21st for the annual tailgate party to benefit the United Way of Utica and the Mohawk Valley. I am so pleased that I could be a part of this commercial, this work of art. Anyway,
That's headed for the museum, I'm sure.
I'm sure it is, yes.
Trivia in the 101st District, Pine Bush is the UFO capital of New York State.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got
to do some commercials for those guys down there.
That would be awesome. We have, anyway, it is to benefit the United Way. It's a great cause. There's free food, and your first drink is on the house, I think.
$25 admission, food all day as much as you want. First drink is on us. Right. You'll get a ticket, and a lot of people will be there, and some great football, too.
That's some great football.
And prizes. So
hopefully we'll see
a nice day.
The Patriots lose on that day. That'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
We're hoping.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. Keep us posted on where this thing goes.
We will.
I know Senator Griffo's gotten on it as well. So got a break at WIBX.